Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Road to Rotation. So today's leader we have is from OP02. This is the final one from this set. We have the Smoker leader, who's mono black with 5,000 power and 5 life, and his ability is Dawn times 1, activate main once per turn, give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost during this turn. Then if there's a character with a cost of 0, this leader gains 1,000 power. So this is definitely one of the classic black leaders that we have. Has a really kind of standard effect. You get the -1 cost plus some other gravy on top. Smoker, for all of his strengths, never quite caught on as the top black leader. And when he first came out, he was the top, I guess, in that regard. But black was not very strong in that first set. And by the time black started to take off, Smoker was kind of outpaced. But that said, he does have a few niches that he can fill that other leaders cannot, being a Navy leader with 5 life and mono black. So let's kind of jump into some of the cards. The first one that is a must-have in this deck is this Tashigi. It came from the starter deck that Smoker got. And it is perfect for the deck. It is a 5 cost, 6,000 power, 1k counter, slash type character with on play. If your leader is Smoker, give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 cost during this turn. Then activate main once per turn. If this character was played on this turn, trash up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. So all of these parts are really important for the deck. The on play lets you get something into range for to KO over with your second half of your ability, and they worded this ability very intentionally so that it's an activate main, so that you can give something -4 cost and put a Dawn on your leader Smoker, give something 1 additional minus to get it down to 0, give your leader the +1,000 buff, and then you can use the activate main after that buff is applied to KO their character, and then when you get to swing in, where you get your 7k lead. So this just has everything you want in the deck, and it will definitely always be a 4 of in the Smoker deck for as long as I think the 2 cards exist together. It will pretty much always be a 4 of. So that is the main core card for the deck. There's a lot of flexibility in what you can do otherwise, and so let's go into some of those options you could do. First up, because Smoker is a Navy, I went ahead and pulled up some of the really good Navy cards that you can run. We have stuff like Ripper, who is a cheap blocker with a counter, which is sometimes hard to find. We have Hina, who's a very important card for the deck. I think giving something -4 is really effective. It comes out with an efficient body, and it synergizes well with some of the other cards we'll talk about. All around, just a strong card. The only thing holding this back from being the perfect card, just like Tashigi, is that it has no counter. So it's hard to run all 4 of them in the deck. Next one is another staple here for Black Navy. We have Kuzan, who's a 4 cost, 5,000 power, pretty good stat line. On play, draw a card, exactly what you're looking for, and when attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 cost during this turn. So anytime that removal is good and this card remains in rotation, this will be a pretty strong card to play out. The only downsides to this one is it has no counter and it has to survive to attacking, but it definitely puts a lot of pressure on it, and even if your opponent does KO it right away, you do get that card draw on play, so it's not likely to be a brick, even if you lose it immediately. The next one is an older one that has been kind of power crept out, but I still think is a really strong Navy card. We have the Borsellino, who's a 4 cost, 5,000 power, 1k counter. With your opponent's turn, this character gains 1,000 power and cannot be KO'd by effects. back in this era when this card came out, KO was pretty much the only way you would regularly see remove stuff. There was bounce and there was bottom deck, but those were on much, much fewer cards at the time. So this KO made it very hard for your opponents to remove. And then it's a blocker after that. So it was just a really effective card at blocking as an efficient 4/6 and not being able to be outed by any removal spells that you might see out of other decks. At the time, you would see maybe Jet Pistol out of red or other black decks, and it was just really hard for them to deal with this. The next one, this one's a little more speculative. This comes from the first starter deck for black, the STO6. This is the Garp, who's a 5-cost, 6,000 power, no counter, and he has Activate Main. You may trash one card in your hand and rest this character and KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 4 costs or less. So with Smoker's Leader, this does work quite well at clearing things on curve, and then it represents a pretty reasonable attacking body in the late game and synergizes with all of your other cards, maybe a Hina or a Kuzan, and then you can continue KOing stuff with this Garp at the cost of cards in hand. Going along with the starter deck cards, we have the Navy HQ. This only works to its full potential in Navy type leaders, of which Smoker is one, and there aren't necessarily a wealth of Navy type leaders, so this one is kind of important when you can use it. Just as a 1 or 2 of is pretty great, because it effectively is a 1 cost minus 2k or minus 2 cost for the turn you play it, and then minus 1 for free every turn after that, which makes for a pretty effective card as just a little 1 of or whatever. It's pretty easy to weave into turns. Next 2 cards for the Navy archetype, we have the Smoker, who's a 6-cost, 8,000 power, no counter. With on play, you may trash a black Navy type card from your hand, and up to 2 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less cannot attack until the end of your opponent's next turn. So this is important that this does not say base cost, so it synergizes with all of black's cost minus, and this can be a really effective card at really stifling up the board and giving you more time to KO stuff and keep your opponent from being able to go wide, which is one of the ways that you can get around black decks. Is if you can effectively go wide, you can get some pretty effective pressure on the deck. And final card I want to talk about in Navy, not the final Navy card, but the final one I wanted to call out in the Navy category specifically, is the Sengoku from OP02. He's a 7-cost, 7,000 power, 1k counter blocker with on play up to 1 black Navy type character with a cost of 4 or less from your trash rested. So main targets you would be focusing on with this one would be Kuzan, which would give you a draw, which you can also protect him with the blocker, or Hina, which gives you the -4. You are left with 3 Dawn left, which is enough to kind of cobble together some KOs off of some of our cards. Or you could get maybe a... Where's the Kobe? OP01 Kobe. Where's Kobe? Kobe would be another card that I would consider in the Navy side. He has 3 cost, 4,000 power, 1k counter. On play, you may trash one card from your hand, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. So between Sengoku bringing back Hina and Kobe, Kuzan, you should be able to chain together a KO off of this and then have a blocker and a body and an effective use of your leader ability probably on that turn as well. So Sengoku is probably going to be one that fits in quite nicely with the deck. Moving on to other cards you might want that specifically aren't Navy cards. Brook is been a staple of black decks since it came out. It's a 3 cost, 4,000 power, 1k counter with on play and when attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost during this turn, then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. So being a 3 cost, it will synergize with Rebecca, who we'll get to in a moment, giving an extra -1 for relatively cheap because you can get it off of your swing or off of your on play. It just has a lot to like, especially if you can stick this with maybe a Kuzan or a Hina to kind of get that early KO while sticking a body that threatens to KO constantly throughout the rest of the game. So great card here. Next up from the same set, we have Laboon, who's a 4-cost 5,000 power 1k counter with Activate Main. You may rest this character. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 cost during this turn. So these two work very well together. You can play out Brook on 3, probably KO one of their searchers that they've played on one of their first turns. And then on 5 Dawn, you can play Laboon, put one on leader, give something -4 from Laboon. Then you give -1 from your leader, go to a 7k, and then you can swing with Brook to KO that card, and then swing with your leader for 7, which is a pretty strong thing, and it gives them 2 must swing into threats that they have to kind of pick how they're going to play around it. Especially because you've dealt with 2 of their threats in that first 2 turns, they do have to really use up their leader. And if they're only going to swing a 5, it's a pretty easy defend. And if they want to swing more than that, they're not developing board, so you can stay ahead. Next up, and this one has been a staple for black decks that aren't kind of archetype locked. We have Rebecca. Rebecca has the ability of blocker and on play. Add up to 1 black character with a cost of 3 to 7, other than Rebecca, from your trash to your hand. Then play up to 1 black character with a cost of 3 or less from your hand rested. So based on the cards that we've already looked at so far, we've got Brook, we've got Hina, who are both great ways of getting some cost minus. You've got Kobe as another access to KO, all of which can be picked up and played out from Rebecca. But one of the more common things to do is going to be play Rebecca, get back a 2k from your trash, and then play out a Brook from your hand. Even though it comes out rested, you have a blocker to protect it. So a lot to like about this one. It's card advantage. It lets you play out guys with a blocker to protect them, and it works well into the end game, setting up extra uses out of your cards that are the cost 3 to 7. Next one, which is a pretty good removal engine for black, especially when you have access to constant cost minus, like what Smoker's Leader ability provides, is Jack. He's a 7-cost, 8,000 power, no counter. With this character gains +4 costs, making him quite difficult for people to remove if they don't have base cost type removal. And then he has Activate Main. You may rest this character. Draw 1 card and trash 1 card from your hand, then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. So with leader ability, that usually means you can KO a 4 without having to invest anything else into it. You do get to cycle a card, potentially setting something up for a Rebecca on a future turn, or a Sengoku. So you get to control that pretty well, and you get a KO engine that is 8k, so it's hard to swing into, and 11 cost on board, so it's hard to out through removal, making it a pretty efficient card just in general. Finally, for the cards that are pretty spicy outside of the Navy archetype, we have Finger Pistol. It's just a good generic removal spell. For 4 cost, you get an Activate Main, or a main event with, you may trash 2 cards from the top of your deck, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. So pretty no questions asked, no frills thing. The 2 cards trashed synergizes well with Rebecca and with Sengoku, so that's great. And then it even has a trigger to activate the card's main effect, giving you a really effective trigger out of life for messing up your opponent's plans. So all around a solid card. The next category I'm going to go over is our 2Ks. You have quite a few good options in the colors, all for different reasons. We have Suru, who is just a plain -2 cost on a 2K for only 1. We have Shirahoshi, who is a 1 cost 0 power 2K counter with Activate Main. You may rest this character and place 2 cards from your trash at the bottom of your deck in any order. If your opponent has 6 or more cards in their hand, your opponent trashes 1 from their hand. So this is a good little bit of hand attack on a good 2K that you can play out. It does force your opponent to swing into it because you're threatening to use it over and over if they don't. So that's pretty great there. Next up, we have the Toy Soldier, who is more efficient and gets a little bit further with his cost. His ability is Activate Main. You may trash this character, give up to one of your opponent's characters -3 cost during this turn on a body that is a 2 cost, 0 power with that 2k counter. This one can be quite effective as a card for kind of stretching your cost minus. Sometimes Suru won't be enough and you'll need that one bit of extra, so you can play out this Toy Soldier and sacrifice it to get the piece you need. Particularly good with stuff like Jack, which this allows you to reach up to a 6 cost, which can be a pretty important checkpoint. Next up, we have, going back all the way to the starter deck 6, we have this Tashigi. This one is mostly included because it acts as a -2 at a little bit more expensive cost than Suru, but the big thing is because it costs 3, you get to recur it off of Rebecca, which is really important for the deck. The whole package is a 3 cost, 4,000 power, 2k counter with Activate Main. You may rest this character, give up to one of your opponent's characters -2 cost. That ability that sticks on the board also makes it something that's kind of attractive for your opponent to swing into so that you don't get free cost minus every turn, so it can act as a pseudo blocker. And that's just a lot of things to like about a card all wrapped up into one package. Next up, we have T-Bone, who's another Navy 2k. He's a 5 cost, 5,000 power, 2k counter with on play, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less. This is kind of your extra removal in a pinch. A lot of times your 2ks will be cost minus, but every once in a while you will want to flex your numbers to find an extra 2k that gives you some extra KO, which can be harder on a leader without any inherent KO, but does have the inherent cost minus. And final one, this one is a quite new one. This is the PRB02 Sabo, who's a 6 cost, 6,000 power, 2k counter with, if you have 15 or more cards in your trash, give this card in your hand -3 cost, and it has blocker. So one of the interactions that's pretty interesting is that if this is in your trash, you can pick it up with Rebecca, and then if you wanted to, if it were something where you already had enough defense set up and you felt capable, you could play this out off of Rebecca because its cost in your hand is only 3 a lot of the time. Meaning that you can play it out rested off of Rebecca, kind of encouraging them to swing into it if they don't think they can go for turn that game, or turn, they can't go for game that turn. Wow, I'm mixing that up. So the kind of an interesting line of play there that you can run with that. So those are the main cards I wanted to do. I think there's actually one card I was thinking when we were going through this. Back in the Navy category, there is this Sengoku, who reads 1 cost, 1,000 power, 1k counter. On play, you may trash 2 black Navy type cards from your hand. If your leader has the Navy type, draw 3 cards. So this is card neutral because it costs you this card out of hand, but it lets you set up cards for your Rebeccas and your Sengokus on a future turn, making it quite an effective card at controlling your stuff. It also is just good at getting rid of some bricks. If you have too many Navy HQs or you have too many Kuzans or Hinas, you can use this to kind of cycle through your deck to find the cards that you're actually interested in. So a pretty good flexible card that is only accessible to black Navy type leaders, of which Smoker is one of only a couple. So I think that will cover the cards that I was interested in covering here. So I'll hop over to the sim and show you guys a sample deck list you can use. All right, so now we have here our sample deck list that we can use. So we've got our Surus, Tashigis, and T-Bones as our 2k counters that we've opted for. For our top end, we have Sengoku and Jack. Core card, we've got this Tashigi and Kuzan and Hina and Rebecca. I guess I'm kind of explaining this in a funky way. Top end, we have Sengoku and Jack. Core cards, we have our Rebecca, Hina, Tashigi, Rebecca, Hina, T-Bone, Rebecca, Hina, Brooke, and Kobe as all options to use off of this Rebecca recursion engine. We have the one of Marineford because we can. We have some blockers in Ripper, and we've got Rebecca and Sengoku, so we've got some pretty decent defense to go with our stuff. Removal options, we have Tashigi and T-Bone and Brook and Jack. Unfortunately, in this specific meta, removal is at a really weak point, but you could probably really punish an ace deck. If they were unprepared, you'd be able to wipe out their Whitebeards without too much issue, because you get to do, you have leader ability, you have Jack, you can do a Hina plus Rebecca to get back another Hina maybe or something like that, or swing with a Kuzan. You can really put them in a weird spot where they have difficulties dealing with stuff. Especially if you can stick the Kuzan here, you'll be in a really good spot to beat through all of the Whitebeards. The main card you want to worry about is Jozu, really putting you behind on tempo and making it hard for you to come back. You do need to stick some amount of bodies so that you can apply pressure in the late game. But yeah, this is kind of the list that I kind of put together. Some glue cards here in Sengoku to kind of let you filter through your deck to find the specific ones that you're interested in. Be it that you're looking for a Hina or trying to get Hina in the yard to use with Rebecca, or if you're trying to find your Tashigis and Sengokus as you get into the mid game, or if you are trying to set up your Kuzans early so that you can ride those into the end game. Lots of different things you can work with this Sengoku. But that is the list for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoyed all of OP02, because this is the last deck for OP02. So that means that next week we will be switching to the starter decks that came out. The next one would be the ST07 Yellow Big Mom, which will be an interesting one. First time we're getting to see a yellow deck on the series, and I hope you guys are looking forward to it, and thanks for hanging out with me today. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.